Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Farhan, also known as Gunner since 96, and you have joined me today as we round off the last bit of transfer news for January 2021, the month where Arsenal actually did some business. So thank you for joining me. It's a late one. It's the first time I've released 2 videos in a day. It's been a busy one for me, most definitely, but I can only imagine how busy other clubs in and around England, in and around Europe must have been. So yeah, basically I'm going to talk today about all the latest transfer news that have happened today. I'm also going to give my overall scope opinion on all the business that's happened this month, what Arsenal have got right, what they perhaps have missed out, what we need to do going into the summer as well. So let's get started. Let's get on with it. It's always an exciting day when it's deadline. Whenever it's deadline day, there's always so many unpredictable moves, business that happens in the matter of, the last second. I mean, who can forget the scenes at the Emirates Stadium when Mesut Ozil was announced? Of course, it only seems like yesterday that happened. But also, Thomas Partey being announced on the last day, not even forgetting last year when we announced Tierney and Louise. There's been some exciting deadline days, and it hasn't really been the same this year. I mean, there have been some last minute moves, but it hasn't been as exciting as the years that we've had. Maybe a different sort of excitement. We've seen a number of players leaving today. So where do we start? Let's start with the earliest bit of news from today, which was Joe Willock. I think Joe Willock was the first one announced to have officially left on loan to Newcastle. So listen, good luck to Joe. I think it's a really good move for him. I think he will finally get the first team football that he needs, especially somewhere like Newcastle where it's going to be a tough season for them. They've been struggling to find creativity, to find, especially because of their injuries as well. They've been struggling in that midfield position, in that central midfield area. And Willock's a sort of powerhouse. He's able to run up and down. He's able to do a job anywhere in that midfield area, whether it be a defensive job or an attacking job. Out of everything, I really hope that Joe Willock finds his actual position in this loan spell, because at Arsenal, I always struggled to identify where his position was, whether it was a defensive midfielder, an attacking midfielder, a holding midfielder. I never knew, because he loved to play all over the pitch, and I think that was his weakness. So hopefully he can sharpen up his tools and come back and be ready. I worry about Willock. I've said this before, but I worry that he won't be able to make it at Arsenal. Hopefully, if he is able to prove himself at Newcastle, it will help him to try and maybe get a similar move, a permanent move in the summer. Maybe even at Newcastle. I mean, these are what loans are for, especially short-term loans where clubs are scrambling to find someone to come in to do a job. If he does a job well, who knows? Maybe they might want to sign him permanently. But look, like I said, best of luck to Joe Willock. Newcastle are going to need him. He's going to have a really good opportunity to prove himself at a club like Newcastle, who are going to be struggling and who are going to want to get out of that relegation scrap. So that's Willock out of the way. The latest news, I mean, it's unofficial, but I think everything's been agreed pretty much in the background. Ainsley Maitland-Niles will be going out on loan to West Bromwich Albion. Again, it hasn't been made official yet as I'm recording right now. The time currently is 10:15, so by the time this is out, you guys will have known whether he has officially left or not. But it does seem as if things have been wrapped up. There was a number of clubs out there for him. There was, Southampton, there was Leicester. Arsenal didn't want him to go to any of those clubs because of competition. I mean, how do I feel about Ainsley Maitland-Niles leaving for West Brom? Well, I think he's going to have a really tricky time there, because West Brom are going to have a really tricky season. They are going to be in and around that relegation area, they are going to find it really difficult to pick up points. I mean, look, they've got Sam Allardyce, who is known to be able to, help take clubs away from the relegation zone. He's the only guy that can make it happen, and they've had some few good results. They've had some positive results. They've had some positive performances. He's restructured and reshaped the squad, and they look a little bit more solid now. But they go from winning one game to then absolutely getting battered the next. So I think Maitland-Niles will be a massive plus for them. He will add a lot of quality in the team, a lot of effort and energy as well. It's one thing I've always admired about Maitland-Niles, is that he's always looking to do an energetic job wherever he is on the pitch, whether it be central midfield or right on the right or on the left. He does like bombing up and down. He is a really decent defender. He is. And it's a shame that Arsenal won't play him in his preferred position, central midfield, because I think he'd make a really good central midfielder. Kind of Kante-esque, weaving in and out of players, doing a good job at the back to win the ball, playing the ball forward, etc., etc. But look, best of luck to him. I think, like I said, it's going to be difficult for him to maybe get the results that he might want, but as long as he puts his head down and focuses on his performance, because at the end of the day, he wants to play as much football as possible. The Euros are coming around, and he's going to want to be part of that. He just needs to knuckle down and get a good performance in every single time that he's played. But overall, it's a good move for him because he wants to play football, and at West Brom, he will be one of the first players on the team sheet, or you hope anyway. And finally, we've just received news that Mustafi has parted way with Arsenal. He has ended his contract at Arsenal, and he is now signed for Schalke. So he's reunited with his compadre Kolasinac, who left very, very early in the month. And yeah, best of luck to him. I mean, it's a bittersweet sort of feeling because we've been dying for Mustafi to leave for so many years. And listen, don't get me wrong, he's had a fair good few years at Arsenal, but then it just sort of declined, and when it did decline, it plummeted down. I'm talking about, the confidence in the player, especially with the criticism that he was getting. I can imagine it was really getting to him because there was a point in the time that he was at Arsenal where you could see he had absolutely zero confidence, and anytime he touched the ball, it would just be disastrous. But he's done his part for Arsenal in some respect as well. I can't seem to erase memories of some of the defending, though. Some of the goals that cost us big games and big points. But look, finally we get rid of someone else off the wage book, someone else who should have been moved on a very long time ago. It's finally happened, and that being said, he joins a long list of other players who have left. So let's talk about what the expectations were going into this window. I think personally for me, I dubbed this as a very, very important window for the club, for the club's recent history going forward. And I dubbed it for a few reasons. One of the reasons was because I thought we were going to go out and spend and maybe bring in the players that we needed. I understand, obviously, that was naive of me to think that because we are in a very, very difficult climate to bring players in. It's even more difficult in January, of course. So I accepted that early on. And if Arsenal were going to do any bit of business, it was going to be trying to get rid of as many players as possible, players that fall under the category of dead wood. And look, they've done that. They have delivered. I don't care what anyone says about the types of players that have left. They have gotten rid of the majority of the players that we don't need right now. There are still a handful of players that are at the club that need to be moved on, that perhaps need to be replaced. And I understand why they didn't do that in January, because it will be very difficult to replace these players in this month. And that's possibly something they're looking to do in the summer. So let's talk about the players that have come in. Arsenal did a really, really good job in getting Matt Ryan and in getting him without even a sniff or without any sort of noise to indicate that they were going for him in the first place. So I was really happy to hear that we had finally got a replacement goalkeeper, because we needed one, especially following the disappointing performances we saw from Renarsson. Renarsson, who still remains, by the way, at the club, is probably or most definitely our number 3. But look, Matt Ryan's a solid keeper. He's done a good job at Brighton. He's shown what he's capable of. He's an international as well. And so as a number 2, I'm more than happy to have him. And obviously the big one, Martin Odegaard, after just days of him putting in his request that he wants to go out on loan, expressing his disappointment for not being played enough in La Liga. I think only 7 appearances or something like that this season. Arsenal went straight in for him, and we've been crying out for an attacking midfielder, for a number 10, for a creative player. And that's been one of our biggest issues this season. And so for Arsenal to go out there and to, get that loan move sorted within the matter of days again after the news coming out was brilliant business. Absolutely brilliant. Hats off to Edu and Mikel for getting that done. I would have imagined, there were other clubs out there for him. There were 6 other clubs that wanted him. Sociedad wanted him, the club that ultimately had him on loan the previous season, but Madrid didn't want to let him go there because obviously they see them as competition. And the good, I guess, relationship between Arsenal and Real Madrid from previously has been a relatively good, important factor, I think, in getting him to move to Arsenal, as well as obviously the phone call that Arteta made to Odegaard. So those two for me, I would have been happy to have just the number. Actually, no. I think for me, it was important that Arsenal tackled 2 key areas, considering that Bernd Leno was going to be fit throughout the whole season, and that was left back after getting rid of Kolasinac and our attacking midfield. I think our attacking midfield position, a replacement, not necessarily a replacement, but someone to cover Emile Smith-Rowe was crucial. They got that done. Hats off to them. That's good. And we got a bloody good replacement as well. The left-back position for me is another important, crucial position. After getting rid of Kolasinac, you would expect someone to come in to try and fill in that position. But then they did have Maitland-Niles and Cedric, who can play in that position, and he's proved that against United. But look, now that Maitland-Niles has gone out on loan, who covers Bellerin? If Cedric covers Bellerin and say Bellerin and Tierney are both out, then who plays in Tierney's position? Yes, you can have Cedric play in Tierney's position and maybe play Chambers on the right, but Chambers' preferred position is centre-back and he's barely had any football. So there are problems. Let's talk about some of the players that have departed. So Kolasinac went very, very early on. The impossible transfer to move on was always going to be Mesut Ozil. I didn't expect him to move in this window. I expected him to see his contract out and leave in the summer. But to my surprise, the club and him somehow came to an agreement where Ozil terminated his contract. Arsenal essentially paid him off, moved to Fenerbahce. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. That's been one of our biggest problems this whole season. The whole Mesut Ozil saga that continued to go on and on and on. And it's created some friction at the back. And I think from the outside, you can tell that the atmosphere at Colney was a little bit frosty at times, and especially when we'd lose games and you'd have Mesut Ozil make tweets and stuff. It was just a little bit on the edge of awkward and maybe unacceptable. And so it's good to have that player be moved on. It's even more important to have the amount of wage saved from him moving on. Socrates then later moved on, and that saved us about 2.5 million to then fund Martin Odegaard, as it's been allegedly reported. But look, good move for Socrates. He wasn't getting football at Arsenal. He was playing in the under-23s, which was a little bit... I'm thinking of the right word to say. Belittling? A little bit belittling for a player of his age and status and quality. So, I mean, good move for him. He's been moved on finally. Another player that's been longing to be moved on for a long time and is finally gone. Mustafi obviously today is gone. Ainsley Maitland-Niles out on loan. Willock out on loan. Some of the guys from the under-23s, Matt Smith, Zek Medley. Matt Macy left earlier as well. And obviously Saliba out on loan. So I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 8 if you're not going to include the players in the under 23s. That's really, really good. That's really, really good. And like I said, I understand that there are players that still need to be moved on, and perhaps this wasn't the right window for them to do it, because obviously if you're talking about players like Lacazette, Xhaka, Bellerin to some extent, you need to replace them. And I don't think this is the correct window for you to be able to replace them. And I guess that moves me on to what can we do going into the summer? One of the main important things that we need to do is definitely look at getting Lacazette replaced. Definitely maybe look at a long-term number 10 to compete with Emil Smith-Rowe, to definitely look for an upgrade on Granit Xhaka. I think a central defender, maybe. We have to still see for the remainder of the season whether Mari and Holding can do a job alongside Gabriel as well. David Luiz is another question. Do you give him another extension? He's been doing well so far, but I personally wouldn't. So look, I mean, even on the left-hand side, you need a backup there. There are a number of players that are still missing to fill this team. Even as far as our wing forwards going forward. I mean, right wing, left wing, whether you can persist with Aubameyang's days are coming to an end. You need to look forward to getting him replaced. Pepe as well. Do you cut your losses and sell him, or whether you replace him? There are a number of questions yet to be answered, and the most exciting part of our transformation is yet to be seen. So hopefully in the summer the club do something about that. And the final question that I have to ask and to answer is whether we have enough depth in this squad now that we've gotten rid of. We've slimmed it down a lot. Do we have enough depth to see the season out? Is there enough players to fill in when it comes to injuries, when it comes to rotation? Are there enough players to rotate around to play football and to play at a reasonable level as well? Because we're still in two competitions. We're still in the Europa League. We're still in the Premier League. We're still in a pandemic, which means that, what happens next is really something we can't predict. Games are being played thick and fast. Like I said, it was only 2 days ago that we were playing United. We are now playing Wolves a couple days later. And then we've got Villa a couple days later. So if you look at the squad right now, I mean, Lacazette's rotation player would be Nketiah. On the right, who've you got? Martinelli. On the left, you got either Willian or Pepe. Attacking midfield, Odegaard. Central midfielders, right now you're left with just El Neni. I mean, Chambers has played as a central defensive midfielder as well. Our centre backs, you got Mari, you got Luiz, Gabriel. On the right, you got Cedric. I mean, yeah, I guess it's as slim as we could ever make it. If we went any slimmer than we are now, then it would be trouble. And I still think we could be in trouble if, like I said, our fullbacks go out injured, or even in times of rotation. Where are you going to play Cedric? You're either going to play him on the left or the right. And Bukayo Saka, if you play him on the left, then you're really reducing what he can do in the squad. But overall, if I had to rate this window out of 10, I would think it would have to be a 9/9.5. Like I said, if we had gotten a left back, if we had gone in to get Bertrand or Van Aanholt, that would have been a 10 out of 10 for me. Absolutely. But we haven't seen a window like this in so long. We haven't seen a window where Arsenal go out to do the things that they have to do rather than do things that are nice but isn't priority. And so that makes me excited looking forward, going ahead into the summer, hoping that Arsenal again do the necessary things that are needed. And again, the moves that Arteta and Edu have made show me that they are capable of making those kind of moves. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please do give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and hit that bell notification to be notified every time I release a video. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about the game that we got going on in the evening, I should say, against Wolves. There will be a matchday build-up video where I'll be talking about all of the team lineups, how we expected to play, how I expect Wolves to play, what kind of game it will be. But look, until then, please stay home, stay safe, enjoy the rest of your evening, and have a good night's sleep, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.